everyone, and welcome to Journey with the Colors. My name is Amanda Keller, and today we are back in the Keller kitchen. So today we are going to be making something from the Unofficial Home Alone cookbook. Today's recipe is toast Em Tarts. So this is a fairly easy recipe. It does take 3 different steps because you've got to make the filling, then the dough, and then the glaze that goes on top. It's a little bit complicated, but it's basically like making a Pop-Tart. Hopefully better though, okay? All right, so the first thing that you're gonna do for this is you're gonna take 1/4 of a cup or 4 tablespoons, whichever one you wanna call it, of unsalted butter, and you're gonna melt it in your pan over a low heat, okay? Once you get that melted, you're gonna go ahead and add in, which I have mine melted, by the way, I don't know if you could see that. So once you have that melted, you're gonna add in 2/3, this is 1/3, of light brown sugar. Okay, 2/3. All right. Then you're also going to add in 1.5 tablespoons of ground cinnamon. Which I really hope I have because I'm getting low on cinnamon here. I'll put it on the list. Okay, so there's a tablespoon. I think we might have it. And then a 1/2 tablespoon, okay? Then you're also going to put in a, let's see, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So a 1/2 teaspoon right here of vanilla extract. Okay. All right, and you are gonna mix that in, get it all mixed up and nice and combined, okay? Once you get this nice and combined, you kind of have this really dark looking, kind of like a syrupy type of stuff, okay? It's kind of thick looking. Okay, now you're gonna add in 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. Okay, so here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. And you're just gonna whisk that together until like all of the lumps are out of the cornstarch, okay? So you don't want any more lumps in the filling. Make sure you scrape down the edges of the pan here. Make sure you get all those lumps out. Shouldn't take too long. You're gonna get like a muddy looking sludge. That's what this looks like a muddy sludge. Okay? I don't see any more lumps, so we're going to go ahead and shut off the heat. And if you can see that, it's really kind of thick looking and sludgy looking. It's not a great looking thing, to be honest with you. Okay, but you're going to take that off the heat, and then you're just going to let that set aside and thicken and cool while you make your dough. Okay, so let me get everything set up for the dough, and I'll come back and show you how we're going to make that. So I'll be right back. Okay, you guys, so now we're going to make the dough. First of all, you're going to want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You are going to need a sifter and a stand mixer, or you can probably use a hand mixer, or you can probably do this by hand as well. But you are going to need a sifter to sift it into the bowl, okay? So what you're going to do is you are going to take 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. So we have 1 cup. And 2 cups, and we need a 1/4 cup, 1/4 cup, and then with that you are going to add 3/4 cup of confectioner's sugar or powdered sugar, or however you want to call that. These measuring cups don't have a 3/4 cup, so I'm going to have to do a 1/2 cup and a 1/4 cup. Is this 1/4? Yes. All right. So once you get those in there, you're going to go ahead and sift these together. Always find that confectioner sugar, you gotta kind of usually help it a little bit. It gets little balls down there, okay? So there is that done, okay? So once you get that sifted, you're gonna go ahead and add in 1 teaspoon of salt. So I left my things over here. Okay. So 1 teaspoon salt. And you're just going to mix that in a little bit. So I'm just going to give it a little stir. Okay. You can go ahead and put this in the mixer, on the mixer, I mean. And what you're going to do is you are going to add 3/4 of a cup or 1.5 sticks or 12 tablespoons, whichever way you want to say it or do it. You're going to take 3/4 of a cup of butter. You're going to cube it into cubes and make sure it's nice and cold. So no heating it up this time. And then you're going to turn this on to a medium speed and you're going to mix it until you get like a wet sand texture, okay? Once you get that wet sand texture, oh wait a minute, I think I skipped a step, didn't I? Let's see here. Oh yeah, no. So you want to wait until you get the wet sand texture. Once you get the wet sand texture, you're going to turn it down to a low speed, and then you're going to add up to about 4 tablespoons of ice water. So you're just going to add 1 tablespoon at a time until the dough clumps together, okay? So mix it with the butter on medium speed until you get a wet sand texture. Then turn it down to low speed and add in 1 tablespoon of ice water at a time until you get the dough sticking together, clumping together, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that done and I'll be back as soon as it's mixed up and we'll go from there. Okay, you guys, so I got our dough nice and mixed up here. So it's nice and clumping together. It did take more than 4 tablespoons of ice water to get it to that point though. It took, I think like 6. So just so you know, it might take a little more than what it says. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and lightly sprinkle our work surface with flour here. And then you're gonna take your dough out. Get it all clumped up here. And then you're going to split it in half, okay? Split it about right. So it looks like it's got more. There we go. I think that's good. Okay, so you're going to split it in half. I'm going to try to make it clump up just a little bit more so it's a little bit more of a dough here. Okay? And you're going to take each half and you're going to roll it out into a 5 by 28 rectangle, okay? So not very wide, but pretty long, okay? So, and that's for both of them, not just one or the other. I need some flour on this, it's sticking. There we go. Okay. Give this a little flip. And you're gonna do both of them and get them rolled out. So let me get these rolled out and I'll be back to show you what we do next, okay? So I'll be right back. Okay, you guys, so I have got my doughs rolled out. It's pretty thin, just to let you know. So it does say to make sure that you handle them as least as possible so that the butter doesn't get too mushy, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take 8 heaping teaspoons. This is supposed to make 8 pastries. So 8 heaping teaspoons full and put it on here, 8 separate things. You want them to be you're going to spread it out, and when you spread it out, you want to leave a 1/2 inch from the edge, so that, because you're going to cut this into different ones. So you want to make sure there's a 1/2 inch of an edge and 3/4 of an inch of a gap between each pastry. It's going to be a little bit hard to judge, but I think I can do it. Okay, so that's 2, 3, 4. Ooh. I think I got this one and this one a little too far apart. Move this one over a little. Move this one over a little. Okay. 5, then 6, then 7. Ooh, I don't know. I'm gonna be able to fit an 8th one in here somewhere. Put it in here. Okay, then that would be 8. Okay, we used up about all the filling there. Okay, so get your 8 heapings on there, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna spread this out with the back of the spoon. Like I said, leave about 1/4 of an inch around the edge. Some of these are gonna be kind of small because of course my dough didn't roll. I can never like get it like a perfect rectangle or a perfect shape. Okay, so just kind of smooth it out a little bit. And then once you get it smoothed out, you're going to place the other pastry on top of this, or the other dough on top of this. Think that's good? Okay, so let me flip the page here. All right, so now you're gonna lay the second sheet on top, like so. I'm gonna try to make sure I go in between so I can kind of see where the in between is here. Okay, so now what you're gonna do is you're gonna press the dough between each section and around the edges to seal it up, okay? Oops, that's not sealed. This one I can see. There we go. Okay, so there we go. So we got them pressed down. Okay, so now you're gonna trim the edges up with a pizza cutter. And kind of look nice here. There we go. It's looking good. Trim this one up a little. And this one up a little. There we go. Okay, good. All right, so once you get them trimmed up so they're a little bit more even, I guess you would say, you're gonna go ahead and, let's see. Okay, so yeah, so either with a pizza cutter or a knife, you're gonna go ahead and cut in between each section here. There we go. All right, and then you're gonna take these and you're gonna put them on a parchment lined baking paper. So which I have back here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm gonna have to get a second one. Yep, I'm gonna need a second sheet. Okay, so I'll get that here in a minute. So you're gonna put these onto a pastry or onto a pan, basically covered with parchment paper, and then you're gonna use a fork. And let's see, what does it say to do? Yeah, so you're just gonna use a fork and you're gonna press down on all the edges so that you leave a mark on, like a fork mark, kind of like on peanut butter cookies. So like a fork mark on each one. Okay, and then you're gonna poke a row of holes all the way down the top of this, okay? And once you get that done, then you're gonna go ahead and bake it for 30 minutes at 350 degrees. So make sure your oven is preheated and ready. So bake them for 30 minutes at 350 degrees until they're golden brown. So once I get them into the oven, I'll come back and we'll make the glaze so that it's ready. Once these are done in the oven, you're gonna pull them out and let them cool on the tray for 5 minutes and then transfer them to a wire rack to cool for 5 minutes, okay? So I'll come back and we'll make the glaze. Then I'll wait for these to come out and get them cooled for the 5 minutes, and then the 5 minutes more, and then we'll top them with glaze and see how they taste. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, you guys, so while your pastries are cooking, you can go ahead and make the glaze. Now you are going to need a sifter in a bowl for this. You're going to need 3/4 of a cup of confectioner's sugar, powdered sugar, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so we've got 3/4 of a cup there. You're going to sift that together with a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. There we go. Okay, and you're just going to sift that together. Feel the little cinnamon does not like to go through these very well. It makes the other stuff stiffer. I'm not sure. It's kind of strange. But it is a lot harder to get it to go through when there's cinnamon involved for some reason. There we go. Okay, got that. So once you get that sifted together, then you're going to go ahead and add in 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Okay. And then also 1 tablespoon of 2% milk. That's 1.5. This is 1. All right. Now, you're just going to mix that together. And it should make a nice little glaze. If you get it mixed together and it seems a little too stiff, because a glaze should be kind of runny but thick at the same time. So if you get it together and it's feeling a little too stiff, then you can go ahead and add a little bit more milk. Which this is definitely needs just a little bit more milk. There we go, that's a little better. Okay, so now it's kind of thick but pourable at the same time, which is what you want it, okay? All right, so now we're just gonna wait for our pastries to come out of the oven and then cool 5 minutes on the pan and then cool 5 more minutes on a rack. And then I'll be back to show you guys how to glaze them, and then we'll try them and see how they taste. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, you guys, so our pastries are done. Now most of mine split open and kind of ran out. So I didn't switch mine to a wire rack because it was just too messy to do that. So now all you're gonna do is you're basically gonna take your glaze, spoon it over, and just kind of rub it around. Get the top covered up so that you've got a pretty good glaze on there. Okay, almost done here. Takes a little bit of time. Looks like we're gonna have just the exact right amount to get them all covered, so that's great. No wasting, perfect. Okay, so once you have those all covered, you're gonna have basically, like I said, it looks basically like a Pop-Tart, right? Okay, so let me see if I can find a small piece to try. I want to make sure I get some filling and some glaze on there. So let's try this one here. Still warm, which I think is good. All right, so here we go. Reminds me of the brown sugar Pop-Tarts, but a little bit better, a little less chemically tasting. So if you've ever had a brown sugar Pop-Tart, that's kind of what this tastes like. It's actually pretty good. Okay, you guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. Like and subscribe if you like, or don't if you don't. Everyone have a good day. Enjoy your cooking. Keep your kitchen messy, and we'll see you later. Bye.